So it's almost time for another Apple event again, and I want to go over the latest leaks and rumors for Apple's upcoming event. Rather than getting iPhones and watches like we got in September, this is going to be an event focused around the iPad and the Mac. So if you're excited, drop a like down below, hit subscribe so you're always staying up to date, and let's jump into what's coming. First though, just want to talk about details for the event itself, which are very slim now, with some people even saying this won't be an event, it's just going to be some press releases and updates to Apple's website. Mark Gurman in particular has cast some doubt on the possibility of Apple inviting people again back to their campus, saying that while there are going to be updates, it's not going to be anything that major. But that don't make no sense to me, and I'm a pretty intelligent guy. Can you see the size of my brain? Listen, joking aside, Apple has 4 major new products coming. A completely revamped base iPad, 2 new iPad Pros, 2 new MacBook Pros, and 2 new Mac Minis, and maybe like an Apple TV as well. That's a lot. That's enough for an event. Let's start off with the iPads. Likely the first thing we're going to see at Apple is an updated version of the $329 iPad. And while normally this is something that I don't care about because it's just the same processor spec bump every single year. If you don't believe me, go back. It's the same, it's just fine. I'm glad that they updated. It's just kind of boring. This year, Apple is planning to completely redesign the device in line with the iPad Air and iPad Pro body language. So boxier corners, a different screen that should be larger, and an ultimately lighter and thinner design. This also means this iPad is finally going to get support for the new Apple Pencil, and USB-C in addition to 5G is coming. So if I don't know who gets excited about the base iPad, probably nobody watching this because we're all freaking nerds. Basically, your mom's iPad is about to be goated. This is going to be a super big update. Now, what I care about the most, because it's what I use every day, is the new iPad Pro. And it's actually been quite a long time since we've seen a new version. The last time we saw some new iPad Pros was in April of 2021 at that really fun spring-loaded event. So it's definitely time for an update, in which this year is kind of weird because it's going to get the M2 chip, which is kind of expected since they randomly put the M1 series in the iPad Pros now. But we're also hearing that this iPad is going to get MagSafe and potentially a redesign, since this would be the 4th update since the last redesign in 2018. And generally Apple does like 3 versions before a big update. So I'm really hoping we get something substantial, something meaty, something we can tear into. For a while, actually, there were rumors saying that Apple was going to redesign the iPad with a glass back for the first time ever. But apparently it not only made it extremely heavy, it also made it so that if you dropped it once, your iPad would essentially be totaled. So they decided to go in a different direction. But what that direction is, we actually don't know yet. It's one of the few designs that hasn't leaked in recent history, so I'm looking forward to it. I am particularly confident in this iPad Pro update coming because one of Apple's partners, Logitech, literally on their website said that the new iPad Pros were coming soon, and Apple frequently works with them on new launches, so I think they just did a little bit of an oopsie, but for us, that's a goopsie. So there are also some new Macs coming, so let's take a look at those next. First of all, we're said to be getting some new MacBook Pros as Apple is nearing completion of development according to some recent information from Mark Gurman. These are going to have M2 Pro and M2 Max chips inside, which is somebody who currently uses the M1 Max in my MacBook Pro. It's amazing. I'm just like, oh, more power. That could be pretty cool. And that's what Apple said to be bringing. There's not going to be any other major changes to these MacBooks, considering they just got the major revamp less than a year ago. But in order to stay competitive with Intel, Apple, I think, is going to start doing chip updates more frequently. And they've already announced the M2. It's not like that would happen. We're just going to get an extension of the M2 line, the more powerful versions of the M2 chips. Something I'm confident is not coming on these new MacBooks is a 4K webcam. And for somebody like me that cares about video, well, that's why I partnered up with Insta360, who sponsored today's video. The Insta360 link is insane. From the 3-axis gimbal that can follow you around the room, a 1/2-inch sensor with 4K image quality, and really good sounding mics as well. It is the entire package if you bought something like the M2 MacBook Air. I mean, let me show you the difference side by side. The M2 MacBook Air versus the Insta360 link. Not only is the image better in every way, the Insta360 also has a ton of cool features like motion tracking. You just hold up your palm to have the camera follow you around the room, and you can even adjust the zoom level by putting your hand in an L shape and moving up or down. It's really intuitive. intuitive. There's also desk view, which changes the angle of the camera to show what you're working on your desk, and portrait mode as well, which flips the camera vertically for that really nice portrait look. And then there's whiteboard mode, which allows you to put these 4 stickers on any surface and have the camera intelligently zoom in on the content. It's so cool. I never thought a webcam could be this good and fun and high quality, so if you want to use the webcam that I've been using, check out the link down below in the description and upgrade your video quality today. So yeah, kind of a mid-sounding update for the MacBook Pros. The story is going to be the new chips, and that's cool because Apple's also adding the new chips to the Mac Mini. We are finally going to be getting a desktop computer cheaper than this, which is starts at $2,000 for the Mac Studio. That's out of a lot of folks' price ranges, and between that, which is $2,000, and the M1 Mac Mini, like, we need something in the middle for a Mac desktop. That's why they're putting the M2 and M2 Pro chips inside of the Mac Mini. But apparently not a new looking Mac Mini. Kind of like Apple did with the M1, they're just throwing it in the existing body. We saw some concepts of what this Mac could look like, but it doesn't seem like that new design is actually happening. It might have been for an entirely different product. Apple's just putting new M2 and M2 Pro chips inside the existing body, which doesn't sound terribly exciting, but I've kind of been in the market for my podcast setup for a new Mac Mini, so I'm actually really looking forward to see what the M2 Pro can do inside. Now, there is one final Mac that we should be seeing at this event, and that is the new Mac Pro, because Apple said when they started the transition to Apple Silicon in 2020, it would take them 2 years, and November 2022 is the end of that 2-year transition. In the March event this year, Apple even teased that they would be having another day for the Mac Pro. They just haven't said when exactly that would be. But considering there's no November event in the works, this October unveil for the new Mac Pro seems really realistic. The design, though, is still a really big mystery, and while a ton of different render artists have taken a stab at what it might look like, we've heard some rumblings of a stop sign or hexagonal design, but it's really a mystery. Like, nobody actually knows what this high-end Mac is going to look like. As for the chip inside of the new Mac Pro, there has been a lot of debate surrounding this, but it sounds like it's going to be 2 M2 Ultras put together into what Apple will likely call the M2 Extreme chip. The naming is completely out of pocket for all of these chips, but if it means it's going to be insanely powerful or twice the power of an Ultra, I think that would be significant. Or if Apple finally included a dedicated GPU, like a dedicated custom Apple GPU would be nuts in here. Finally, new Apple TV is like, maybe Mark Gurman has told us that Apple unveiling it is possible before the end of the year, and if they do, I just hope they actually do something with it. They've done this like minor spec bump every time, or maybe we see the Apple TV stick that was rumored to come out this year, a cheaper like plug-in version. I'm just looking for something to get the juices flowing, because the Apple TV has just not had a lot of love recently, and it deserves love. It's a solid product, all right? Like all Apple products, because all Apple products are perfect and we love them. So I'm excited for the October event. I do believe there's going to be one. Maybe the plans change, but I feel like this is enough for an event. There's enough to talk about here. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I love you so much. Yeah, this is it. I'll see you guys at the October event. Can't wait.